Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high must leave the court immediately.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Today's rule is rule number 36. The truth is always the funniest.
So Kathleen is a friend of ours. We met her through cheer.
Yeah. Never ending cheer peoples.
But it's funny because none of us belong to the same program anymore, but we're still all friends.
Yeah.
And Kathleen got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, no.
So she's going through her whole process.
Wait a minute. Did I sit next to her at one of your parties?
Yes. She was actually at Aiden's birthday party. She's from Jersey.
Yeah, okay. I do remember.
Yeah, so she just had a double mastectomy. So that's like a major surgery. And you couldn't even tell. She looks amazing. She's like completely fine. Like she looks great. I'm in awe of her and how amazing she looks and is just dealing with this whole thing.
God bless Kathleen. Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah, awesome person. And she looks amazing. I was like, I still can't get over it.
Celebrate her.
Absolutely.
We're going to have the cancer sets party. Yay.
Yeah, get your mammograms, ladies.
It's going to be off tape.
So important. Check those boobs. So important.
Yes.
It's not that bad. You just smush them in the thing. It's a little uncomfortable, but it's all good.
Hello, Kitty.
Yeah, you should. Christine had surgery too. She had it. You guys should just go and get it checked. And
yeah,
the quicker you catch it, the quicker you can deal with it.
So true.
Audrey's giving us a face of sheer terror.
It's not that bad. It's uncomfortable, but I mean, it's only a few minutes.
Me.
So here's our PSA for today.
We'll bleep smushed. It's all good.
How are you ladies doing? What's going on in your lives?
It's my son Nick's birthday today. He's 21.
What?
So that's exciting. So we're trying.
That is exciting. I see it's not as exciting as it used to be because I feel like they do all that shit before they turn 21 anyway. So it's not even like you could do like, let's have our first drink together or let's.
Oh no, I've already drank with him.
Yeah, well, can you have fake IDs now? Because we all did. It was easy, but
yeah, you thought a bunch of them do. Yeah, I know some get them just so that they can get their the carts and stuff because I think you have to be like 18 to get those stupid things.
Gotcha.
I do. Yeah, I'm like, I think that's gross. Don't do it. Carts are gross.
Carts are for like vapes,
those nicotine thing. Yeah, no, those like the nicotine ones. I'm like, I don't.
But as cannabis enthusiasts, don't you guys use those pretty regularly or no?
I don't. I every now and then I use the carts, but I am more of like a straight flower person. I like smoking the actual flower.
Audrey coughing right on cue. Perfect cough, by the way.
So I don't actually smoke flower. I vape, but my doctor did tell me that it's better to smoke the flower if you're going to do it. The vapes have higher levels of THC. People just tend to keep hitting them.
I feel like I get headaches from them too.
I think that's why the higher levels of THC and when something doesn't end, like a joint will end.
I get headaches.
That was right.
So I'd rather just smoke a joint or even like a bowl or bowlsies.
So as experienced guys, let me ask you this. So when you smoke a joint, is it instantly hit you? Like right away, you're like, whoa, okay, I can feel this?
No.
Because
yeah, this doesn't like instantly like, well, one pull and I'm like, hey, I'm high. Like it takes a little bit to like, I sit there smoking for a little and you feel like a nice little, but I also don't smoke to get like super stoned or like, I'll take a few hits and just be happy. Mellow.
Chill. But my gummy experience I have, it takes like 15, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour.
Yeah. The edibles take a little while longer to hit.
They also last in your system longer because I feel like when you smoke, you'll be high for like 15 minutes and it's like, hey, you're done.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
And go back to. Well, I guess it depends on the person too.
And how like used to it they are.
Tolerance.
Crap, so I was going to wear these, but I can't hear anybody.
So today, coming on with us, we're going to have a woman who has a really incredible story, and she to get over her tragedy and her life falling apart, she turned to an interesting outlet. We'll talk about that later. I don't want to spoil it, but just crazy, like when things fall apart, what people turn to, and this can't wait to hear how this happened.
Well, and everyone goes through that point in their life where like they just there is nothing left to lose, so why not? And you find like a path and you stick to it, and so many things can happen.
Yeah, you got to find what works for you, I feel like.
So, Susie, welcome to Rule 42. We're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. And obviously, we'd love to find out more about different people's life stories and how they've turned tragedy into success. And you are definitely one of those individuals. So thank you for being here with us to share your story. And I would like to start by I know that you grew up Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of that do you feel shaped like who you are now? How much of your religion?
You know, that's a really good question. All of it. I was born and raised into the religion. My heritage, seven generations deep into Mormonism. And so it is all I knew. It is everything that I believed. And it is how I lived my life until about the age of 42. And at this point in my life, even after having left the religion for, 10, 12 years ago, it still impacts my life. I'm aware of it. I'm consciously aware of it, and I'm able to work through it and understand why I'm thinking what I'm thinking and why I'm veering toward the thoughts that I'm having. But it still impacts my life. But it doesn't impact my decision making anymore, which is great.
It's hard to get through. It's like Catholic guilt.
Yes.
Something it doesn't necessarily mean what we've been bred to believe it means.
Right.
You through you guys were out in Vegas and
Right.
raised your family there
Yes.
because you had kids.
I do. I had 6 children. They're all raised. But yeah, but I moved there when I was 20, right after we got married. And I never wanted to be in Vegas. It wasn't the plan. Coming from a really small town, Vancouver, Washington at the time was a small town. And moving to Vegas, it was an eye opener. I mean, it was a real eye opener. And transferring from Brigham Young University, BYU, to UNLV. My dad called it going from God's University to the University on the Strip. And I got a lot of hell over that. But yeah, it was an adjustment. And we only planned to be there for 2 years. And I really got trapped. I mean, he knew what he was doing and ended up raising all the kids there. They're perfect. They're great. They're wonderful kids. But I could not wait to get out of there. I just couldn't wait. And I finally did.
Are any of your kids still living there now, or?
2 of them, my oldest and my youngest. Yeah.
You live in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
What are their age ranges?
The oldest is 33. The youngest is 22.
Oh, so they were all close too.
Very close. Very close. And in Mormonism at that time, so Mormonism is really gaslighting and changing. And so our generation is the one that all the new generation is coming in and saying, oh, they never said that. They never said that. Well, they did say that. And they told us not to wait to have children. Do not use birth control. They even told me breastfeeding was considered birth control. It's not. Have as many children as you physically can. There's no reason to postpone having children, and there is no reason to not have children. It was considered very selfish, and if we didn't want children. And so right away, we start having children without being prepared. And we were always told, don't worry, God will provide. While we're paying 10% of our income, which was nothing in poverty to the church, and just obeying the commandments and doing what we were told to do. And that's why I have so many children. No regrets. I love them all, but that is why I had so many.
And in such a short range, it was that's part of also your upbringing dictating what the decisions were that you made as an adult.
Yeah.
What that moment when you realize I need to get out of this. This is not, because there are people that are still, they don't see anything
Right.
beyond what they've been taught, and that's just the way life is. There is no difference. So what made you realize, yeah, no, this isn't what I want and this isn't the life for me?
It is a long process, but the hallmark moment for me was when I realized that my husband did not love me for me. He loved me because I was a worthy companion. I did everything right. That's what he wanted, was the stellar Mormon woman, the stalwart, perfect Mormon woman, which I was. And when that left, and to get there, in 18 years, we were married 22 years. In 18 years, that man never took me out on an overnight date anywhere. We never went on a trip, and it wasn't because of financial reasons. This guy just literally, and to back it up a little bit, around the time our fourth baby was born and she did die, he became addicted to opioids, and it really took away his ability to have, a guy that already didn't have much feeling or ability to express himself, turned into a zombie that I would pick up from the front yard, falling asleep watering the grass, to falling asleep with Ben and Jerry's melting down his chest into his crotch, and he wouldn't even wake up all night. I mean, he was just stoned all the time. And he finally took me on a trip to Hawaii only because his friends from high school planned it and wanted us to go. And I really wanted us to reconnect. I was so in love with him like the whole time. And he never wanted to hold my hand in public, never showed me any affection, never really was into me. And it was on that trip that I realized, when all of the kids were not there, there were no distractions from work, and that guy took me to Vegas, and we were sharing a one bedroom, one bath condo with his friends. That's when it occurred to me, he is just not that into you. And I was like, okay, I cannot make somebody love me. I have got to focus on my own happiness. It was after the sixth baby was about 15 months. And I thought, I've got to focus on me. What do I need to do in my life to make me happy? And that's when I started the bodybuilding and everything. And then it was a progressive, it wasn't right away that I left the church. It was a progressive um, experience. And nobody wanted me to do the bodybuilding because they knew I would be exposed to things that the church didn't agree with. And so a lot of people, including my husband, really freaked out over that. But I had to do something because I realized he's not into me. I got to get over it. I got to move on. This, I can't make somebody love me that doesn't love me. And that was kind of the beginning of my emotional divorce and the beginning of leaving everything.
Okay, so it was the relationship that's made you start to see what
Yes.
is falling apart.
Because our whole relationship was the church. That's all we had in common. And that was my whole life. It was his whole life. And it was the basis, the entire basis of our relationship.
And he was your
And
high school sweetheart, wasn't he?
he was, yeah. I met him when I was 15, and we were together. Even though he moved to Vegas when he was 16, we kept in touch all throughout those years when he went off to his mission and I was at BYU. But we met when we were 15, and I knew at 15 I wanted to marry him. I mean, I was head over heels in love with him, and I was for years throughout my sixth baby. It just wasn't reciprocated.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from because I went through that. I have reciprocated, uh, and I'm not Mormon, but the same situation. You hold on and you try, and it was literally the exact same thing. We went on a trip with no kids, and I just realized that his love language and my love language weren't meshing well.
Right. That is wild that you have that same similar story.
Yeah, that's why I was smiling. I'm like, shut up.
Wow.
So you went into bodybuilding. Now that is something that takes so much discipline and work. Like,
Wow.
how did you find the strength for that? Because let me tell you, when I realized that things were falling apart and weren't what I thought it was, or wouldn't go in the direction I thought, like I just I started unraveling.
Yeah, I think that I have done so much unraveling. I mean, there have been times where I've hardly been able to function with different things that I've gone through. So I think we all have those moments of absolute unraveling, or I cannot get out of bed, I can't talk to anyone. But I think in my mind at that time, I had no intention of ever leaving my situation. So I think that I wasn't quite at that point of, emotionally unraveling. I was really sad and heartbroken. But, I think I found the strength because I knew I wasn't leaving him, and so I didn't wanna be around him anymore. And so I would get up at 4 in the morning and go work out because I didn't want him to roll over in bed and touch me like there was an expectation. I wanted to nothing to do with him anymore. And so that was my escape. It really was my escape. And so 4 AM, I'd go to the gym, do my cardio, come back, take the kids to church because we had church every morning at 6 AM for the kids.
Oh, wow.
And then I would, as you know, with 6 kids dropping off all during the day, and then after I would make dinner and he'd get home at night, I'd go back to the gym, and that's when I would do my weight training. And I was just surprised how fast my body started responding. Like, it started responding really quickly, and I was just training myself and going based upon the knowledge that I had in college and stuff. But at that point, it was when a trainer approached me and he wanted to train me. And he trained a lot of the professional athletes. He said, I see you here. I see how fast you're responding. I'd really like to train you. And then, of course, I wanted cosmetic surgery because if you're going to be bodybuilding, you lose your breasts. And, after having 6 kids, they're not, at least mine weren't. They were
Well, no, they're
not where they're
supposed to be.
awful. And I'm like, oh hell no. I'm not getting in a bikini. Now my body looks good, but these are like awful. And so I without telling my husband, I got a breast augmentation, and that was kind of the beginning to the end. And I remember the cosmetic surgeon telling me that when my husband wasn't there. He said, "Oh, you're doing this without your husband here." He said, "This causes a lot of divorces." And obviously it wasn't the thing that caused the divorce, but when he saw it, when he came home and I told him what I did, he said, "Oh my God, you look like a stripper. You're disgusting."
Oh my God.
And that's when I thought, you know what? Screw you. And it started unraveling from there.
Yeah, that your person should be your personal cheerleader,
Right.
support you in any decision that you make. That's like the whole point of having a
Agreed.
partner.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think that's something I ever understood, never. And that's a really good point because I think if that was something that I had and understood going into a marriage, even at 20, I don't think that it's something I would have continued to stay and have children in because I never was respected in my whole marriage. Yeah.
Love is blind, though. And like you said, you loved him since you were 15, so you have this whole image in your head of what your life was going to be.
That's a really good point too, because I've always thought about the fact that it's just as important to be loved in return. And what mattered to me most was how I felt about my husband. I didn't ever have that ability to really think beyond that. I just knew how much I wanted to be in love because in the Mormon church, with as much babysitting as I did for $1 an hour in the 80s, these women were miserable. I would walk into their homes and I'm like, these guys are miserable. I don't want to be like that. I want to be happy. I want to be in love." And so it was important to me that even though there were these rules placed upon us, we had to get married in the temple. We couldn't have sex before marriage. A lot of really stringent rules. I knew first and foremost, I wanted to be in love with that guy. That if I wasn't in love with him, I was not going to go off to BYU and marry some guy after 2 dates like everybody did. I was like, no, I'm going to be in love with him. I'm going to know who he is, and I'm going to be in love forever. But there were so many red flags of, hey, this guy is not into you. He's marrying you because of the fact that you're just worthy to marry.
It's like almost like those arranged marriages.
It is.
Say that you fall. They're like, oh, well, they convince them that love isn't a priority or important because it's garnered over time of being with the person.
I think sometimes it's not even a part of it. It's just a marriage to make more kids and more babies for the church or the organization.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And that even though they didn't come out and tell us that, that was exactly what it was about. That multiply and replenish the earth. It was a commandment. And so the church didn't care whether we were in love or happy at all. And that absolutely, you're absolutely right, Tom. It wasn't a component of it whatsoever. In some way, deep down in me, it was very important. And I think that really stood out to me because it really didn't seem to matter to those around me that they were in love, including my husband.
He learned his lesson.
There you go.
Yeah, he was not happy because it was the trainer that approached me to train me that I trained with that I had an affair with. And it didn't happen for many years because the guy was, I'm like 5'4". He was my same height. He was not attractive to me at all. He was huge. I mean, he was a huge bodybuilder, those little short, stocky, he-men. But the thing that I loved about him was he believed in me. And when he approached me, he said, you're the hardest working person I see here. And why are you here all the time? And of course, one of the most dangerous things you can do when you're in a marriage or relationship is say, I'm here because my relationship is crappy. It's like you're opening a door, And
Well, he was giving you that attention that you weren't getting from your husband.
he really did. And he became my best friend. I mean, he would say things that no one had ever said to me before, like, I believe in you. I believe in you. You are strong. You are the best athlete I have. I mean, and looking back at it, I never got 1 ounce of encouragement from my parents, from my teachers, from my husband. And this felt amazing. I'd never experienced that in my life. I didn't even know as a mother how to give that to my children because it had never been shown to me. So I've always said that my affair taught me how to be a better mother, sadly, although I would never encourage having an affair and it wasn't planned. That that relationship taught me how to be a better mother, a better friend, a better everything by encouraging and showing love and kindness and support like you were saying in our relationships. That's why relationships thrive, is because we offer that. When you don't offer that to people, they don't thrive unless you're in the Mormon church and you being married is a commandment. And then of course the length of it doesn't signify in any way the quality of it, but they all base their relationships upon the length of time that they last. Most last a lifetime, and we're married for time and all eternity. And so you have one partner for life and all of eternity if you're a woman.
So the same doesn't go for men?
No, because of polygamy. So we are told that even though in this life, because we have to live based upon the laws of the land, polygamy no longer exists in the church. Although I was a product of polygamy because all of my great grandparents were polygamous, and but we are taught that in the hereafter that there are 3 kingdoms, and the highest kingdom is the celestial kingdom. That's where you go if you I could go on and on, but that's where you go if the righteous people go. If you're not righteous, you'll lose your private parts. That's one of their threats to get you there, for real. And so, if you're in the highest kingdom, you're married, but the higher law is polygamy. So the women are still for all eternity bear children, but the husbands, they have multiple wives. Mm-hmm.
I mean, see, that's my thing with polygamy. I always looked at it as something where it's not just multiple partners for one person. It's multiple partners that you're agreeing on as in a relationship.
Right.
But you're saying for like the Mormons, it's okay for the men, but not the women.
Oh yeah, and the man decides. I know, like on Sister Wives and everything, they kind of all made a decision together. But in my family history and polygamy, the other wives didn't get to decide. That guy could bring home a 14-year-old girl, and it didn't matter what anyone said. And as we found out in recent years, because of the internet and because the Mormon Church can no longer hide their history, that the founder was marrying 12 and 14-year-old girls. Joseph Smith was a polygamist, and they never taught us that. We were never taught that. We knew that Brigham Young was a polygamist. He had like 56 wives. We didn't know that part. But we never knew that Joseph Smith was a polygamist. And so now the church is backpedaling and saying, yes, you knew. You were told. It's like, no, we weren't. We didn't know that guy was out marrying 14-year-old girls. And if we were to ever come across any information like that, like on the BYU campus, when people would come out and try to give us flyers in the 80s and say, you don't know about your prophet Joseph Smith, we were told to turn a blind eye. We were told that if we entertained it, it was sinning, and that we should never, ever read that material, ever. And it was all there. People had the information for us, but we were obedient, and we were told we did what we were told. And we were told that, the spirit of the Holy Ghost would leave us if we ever read any anti-Mormon literature. And the reality is, it wasn't anti-Mormon. It was actual history. And the church did not want us to know. They didn't know the internet would come out. They should have known if they're all knowing, right? But they're kind of in a pickle now because they're looking at my generation. I mean, I'm 55, and they're just telling everyone, we never said that. It was misinterpreted. These people just took it too far. Oh, we took it too far. So there's a whole generation, like the Gen X is already a little bit, crazy. And then you go gaslight us with religion, and it's like you end up with a Gen X ex-Mormon. You've got yourself a woman in her dreams that is, I mean, just like my dream last night, beating people up over stealing her kitten. Like, we are the worst. You don't want to cross us because we've been gaslit our whole lives by everyone.
It's crazy. It's almost like you grew up in The Wizard of Oz.
You are so right. And I don't know if you've seen that movie Heretic. Have you seen it? Oh, it is so good because it is just, it's beautiful the way that this guy toys with their minds. And he's not toying with them. He's giving them facts. And that's the thing is, I don't care what fact was placed before me when I was in Mormonism. It didn't matter. I listened to the prophet. Whatever the prophet said went. I mean, you are truly, genuinely brainwashed. And I like to think of myself as a person now that has the ability to critically think, but I am constantly catching myself with authority and learning to know I need to question that. It doesn't matter that it came from this person or this person. I have an obligation, and I also have the right to just question for understanding. But
the hard way.
yeah. And what I've found is that a lot of people, even outside the church, really don't like that because I'm not trying to call anybody a liar when I call them out on things. I genuinely just want to know. And I guess because I've been able to own my past and the mistakes I've made, my affair, for one, it got me excommunicated from the church. I was honest about it. And as a result, the church...
Does it make you come in front of people and do they put you on trial?
Yes.
Who found out about the affair?
Well, my shame and my guilt got the best of me because, I don't think affairs are ever good, ever. And that's the one thing I've learned is that I'll never cheat again. I'll leave before I ever have to do that. And I don't have to depend upon anybody for my happiness. I mean, hell, right now I'm living out of an RV 3 days a week. Like, I don't give a damn about material things. I can live without it. So as a result, I don't need someone to supply a life for me. And so that's very freeing in and of itself.
Yeah.
I've even asked myself at times, hey, if I was ever homeless, where would I live? Oh, it would be in Maui. As long as I have a toothbrush, I'm okay. So it's like when you get to that point, when you've lost everything, then nobody really has that power over you anymore. And
lose. So, for those that don't know your story, you went through bankruptcy, you went through the ringer, not just losing your church and your marriage, but you lost
my house,
everything.
My home, everything. We lost everything. And I knew if I stayed with him, he didn't file. He wanted to stay with me after the divorce because he really enjoyed controlling the narrative of everything. And divorce in the Mormon church does not look good. And so he didn't want the divorce. Now, he wanted to talk about me. He wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I was a sinner. He wanted to make sure that everybody knew I was the bad girl and that he was the righteous man for staying with me. And so that's the narrative that he wanted. And after and of course, when I told him, it started out with me telling my therapist and telling her how scared I was to go and tell the bishop, and maybe if I just change my ways and privately repent, do I have to tell my bishop? Do I have to tell my husband? I don't plan to keep doing this. And she was Mormon, and she said to me, she said, women covenant to their husbands and husbands covenant to God. And that's true. That's one of the things that we do in the temple in the private ceremonies. So I never had the privilege of covenanting to God. I covenanted to my husband. So if my husband cheated on me, he didn't have to tell me.
Yeah.
But I had to tell him because my covenants I wasn't even worthy enough to covenant to God. So Bishop, I went to him and told him what had happened. And he said, you need to tell your husband. That man, if you can believe it, and there were already semi-abusive situations in my marriage that he knew about, with my husband obviously being on opioids. He told me to go home in our home and tell my husband. And that is one of the most dangerous things
Yeah.
for anyone. Like go to dinner, make sure that you're in a counseling session, make sure you're not alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he wrapped his hands around my neck. He did not choke me, but he wrapped his hands around my neck and he said, this does not happen to guys like me. This happens to guys guys that work for me, because he was a superintendent. This happens to guys that work for me. Doesn't happen to me. And I said, it just did happen to you. And he lost it on me. He lost it on me. He always elevated himself. Like he was better than the guys that worked for him. He was better than everyone else because he lived the perfect Mormon life, and it's like, look, dude, life is happening. And I'm like, you didn't deserve this. And I have an obligation to repent. And I didn't do this to you, but I did it because I'm so empty. Our marriage is so empty. I don't have anything that I need. And it's not like it was the first time I told him. I'd been telling him our entire marriage from day one, and none of my needs were met. And I said, no, you didn't deserve this. I didn't do this to you, but I need to repent, because at that point I still believed the church was true. And so I needed to follow the rules. So that's how it came about.
Deserve those years of feeling like not enough either, of not being acknowledged or being loved, because that is so important. Like your children go on and they move on and they live their lives, and some of them will stick around and kind of be closer to you. But once they're grown ups and they've started their own family, the only person that you have is your partner. And if there's
Right.
love there with the children, and there's no love there, and you still have children and you go away without the children, then there is no love there. And you don't deserve to miss out on that because someone else finds it more convenient for you to be in their life, or doesn't know how to be humble enough to realize that they were wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even acknowledge their own, because I did bring up the opioids and I said, these have made you a shell of a person. They've made you empty. And I want you to get the help that you need for those. And he said, Susie, your sins are here. Where's my hand? Your sins are here. My sins are here. And so he always made sure to let me know that it permitted him an opportunity by us staying married to always be the better person and be the one in charge and call the shots. And he wanted so badly for me to stay so that he could do that, because it negated his ability to make any changes in his own life. He didn't want to make them. And so, and I asked him, when are you going to get off the opioids? Because it wasn't just opioids. It was opioids, Xanax, and sleeping pills. And I don't know how the guy didn't die. But I signaled up. Yeah, I mean, like, how do you cocktail that every night? The only thing that was missing was alcohol, because
Feel like that.
I know. And it's crazy.
Wow.
But I don't know how but he told me he'd be on it forever. He said, I have back pain. I'll be on it forever. And I thought, well, then this isn't going to work.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
not for you.
Oh, you don't need to. That's also very narcissistic behavior.
Yeah.
yes.
Everything's your fault. Nothing's theirs. It's all one.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Susie, but that the narcissistic behavior Audrey mentioned is kind of built into the entire ethos of Mormonism. The men are always at a higher level than the women, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yes. And he always makes the final decision. You're absolutely right. It is, and walking away from it now and looking from the outside in, it's disturbing. It's really quite disturbing. But I lived it because I mean that's how my dad treated me. My dad he was very narcissistic, horribly narcissistic, and I never knew any different. And there was physical abuse in my home, but I remember, like, I'll go back and read my journals. I wrote my journals every night for 10 years when I was a teenager. And I actually have written in there, yeah, I deserved it. I said to dad this, or I was wearing a bikini and so I deserved it. And it's like, what? So, and I have a great relationship with my dad now. He's he's learned a lot, but he's still very Mormon, but he respects the fact that I'll never come back ever.
So what do you do for your spirituality now? Like, since you're not Mormon, do you still like practice some sort of religion, or do you?
No. I
Mm.
do not believe in religion, and
Okay.
I do not believe in, like, for me, the idea of God and Jesus Christ, it very much, I can't, if it is true, I'll believe it when I get there. But right now, what works for me, and it's taken me a really long time to disconnect myself from religion, but I feel very connected to, like, my baby that passed away. I know her. She only lived for 5 weeks, but the Mormon Church very much teaches that I have lost her forever because of the fact that I have broken my covenants. I don't buy that. I thought to myself when I left, if there is a God, if there is truly a loving God, would he do that to me? Because I've made mistakes and I'm human and I've owned them. Would he do that to me? And I thought to myself, that's not the nature of the God I know. The nature of the God that I know intrinsically is a God who loves their children aside from their mistakes. And again, in leaving the religion and in making a lot of the mistakes that I've made, I am so thankful that that is the way that I have learned to love my children. I had to begin to show compassion to myself, which I had never experienced and I had never felt before, by telling myself, how would you speak to your child? How would you speak to, Jordan or Jake? How would you speak to them? Because you certainly wouldn't say to them the things that have been said to you. So how would you speak to them if you could? And the way that I spoke to my children is the way I learned to speak to myself. So instead of saying things to myself like, you're stupid, or you'll never learn, or those naturally negative things that come to a person who's grown up in that narcissistic abusive environment, I would say to myself, Susie, I'm proud of you for owning your mistakes. Susie, you know what? Life is hard and it takes a lot of work, and you're learning, and I will be patient with you, and I love you, and you're not a perfect person. You don't need to be a perfect person, but I know that you have a good heart. And so those are the things I would say to myself. And over time, that became my language, and I learned to have compassion for myself, and I learned that I could be accountable for my mistakes and not try to hide them and own them openly and outwardly. And because there was so much that was known about me in my community, I mean, I was already a A letter wearing woman in the community. So it's like, you know what? Go ahead.
You don't live there anymore once
No.
you're done.
Well, I lived there for I went back to grad school living there. After the divorce, after we lost the house and went through bankruptcy, I went back to grad school and became a nurse practitioner. And I still lived in that community until my youngest was 18. And so I had to live there because of custody issues. And so I ended up moving not until 2020.
You're basically shunned by the community, right? Are you officially?
Oh, so shunned.
Yeah, they can't talk to you, right?
They don't want to talk to you. And I even tried to get back in the religion, and they did not want me there. I was And especially being a woman and doing that. If I was a man and there were rumors, okay, nobody's going to admit to it. But I was a woman excommunicated, and they put me on trial, and they asked me disgusting questions that are so inappropriate by myself in a room with 4 men. They had no business asking me those things. And because I was naive and because I believed that I had made the mistakes, I answered their disgusting questions. And it is disturbing what they did to me, and they do it to other women, but most people will never confess or admit to their mistakes because and I had people tell me this, I don't ever want what happened to you to happen to me, and I will never tell. And so you end up with a whole community and an organization of people who lie to stay in it because they look at someone like me, and whether they admire it or don't, most of them look at it and say, "What a stupid girl for admitting it." And they all lie to stay in. And that doesn't work for me.
Hadn't you did it, you wouldn't be where you are today. And you created something phenomenal of yourself and built yourself up exponentially. Like as you were speaking, there is a song that I love. There's an artist that's just very poetic in the way that he communicates with the world. And one of the things that's happening is that people would attack, like are constantly attacking, especially now that like social media is so like prevalent in our lives. People just attack you without knowing you. And I love his response to that, because for him it was like, all right, it's fine, say what you want to say about me, but understand that the way the brain works, like, you reap what you sow. Like, you become what you speak. So you took it to a and was like, all right, well, I don't want to be the person that they expect me to be. And that's what you became, because that's what was spoken to you on a regular basis. You became what you wanted because you spoke to yourself in a way that was in the direction that you wanted to be and the type that you wanted to be. And that's what you became. So they can look at you and say, shame on you, or how stupid for admitting, but you wouldn't be where you are today without taking that step.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you. I would love to know what that song is too. But it is so true that, and I see that like in my profession where people can't own mistakes. People can't own that we're human. We all make mistakes. We do. And it means so much to me. It means I have so much respect for people when they say to me, you know what, that is on me. I am so sorry. It was not my intention. Like, respect beyond belief, because in my whole life, I never had anyone, my husband, my parents, my church, no one say, oh, you know what? We can see how damaging that teaching was. We can see how damaging it was for us to do this. And now that we know better, we're doing better. And we're very sorry that we put you through that. Like, it would never happen. But the beauty in my relationship with my children is I can say to them things like, I am so sorry that I had an affair. I am so sorry we lost our house and that we went through bankruptcy and that you guys went through the public shaming and humiliation at school when kids were talking about your mom. And I am so sorry that I put you through that. Like, my heart breaks. And my children have taught me so much about love and compassion. My kids have like put their arms around me and, they've just said, Mom, we love you, and we know you did the best that I mean, like, how many kids can do this without hating their parents, and they gave me that grace, and I think because my kids gave me that grace, I was able to learn that grace for myself because I didn't think I deserved it, but they found it to give to me, and that they are the voice that, honestly, I began giving to myself is because of them, and because of them, I'm able to give grace to my parents and recognize that they're not bad people because they still embrace this religion. I don't view them as, oh, they love the church more than me. No, my parents love me and they did the best they know how. And they're still like mind effed by this religion. And I understand because I was mind effed by it. And none of us know the truth. None of us know what the truth is as far as like what happens in this afterlife. We know the truth in this life. We know what's true. Yeah, we're living it. But I think many times when we get sidetracked with religion, we don't know what's real and what isn't. Yeah, the Mormon church doesn't know the truth. No church knows the truth.
Also, not for nothing, the Book of Mormon is hilarious.
Hilarious.
It was.
I have. Yeah, it's hilarious. And it is spot on. It is spot on. So I went to it in 2017 in New York. I went with a guy that I was dating. So yes, I was having premarital sex. So we premarital sex. We go to the Book of Mormon thing and then it was so fun because I remember he got me like a cup and it had a lid on it with vodka. And we used to give our kids in church the little sippy cups and Cheerios to keep them quiet during church. And I picked up that little cup of vodka and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got a vodka sippy cup to watch Book of Mormon and I'm having premarital sex. It's so naughty. But it was fun. That is a on show. Spot on. And you know, the what I have found in life is the truth is the funniest. The truth is always the funniest.
Yeah.
But the Mormon church, what I was saying about that with no religion has truth. They tell us what is, and we just believe it. But when we decide that our heart is our own religion, we get to decide what truth is. And I get to decide what truth is. I get to decide that I will see my daughter again. I know I will. I don't have to focus
Amazing.
on what a church tells me, what a religion tells me. And so it's very freeing. It's very freeing. I've had a lot of people say, what if the Mormon church is true? And I say, what if it is? They'll probably baptize me like all the other people because that's what they do. They baptize all the deceased people in the whole world. So I'm like, I got nothing to worry about. But it's not. It's not true. So
I think you have to find your own truth and what works for you. I feel like that's what,
for sure.
and I think that's the most important.
And I think it's so worth out because that you got out of it because you seem like you've felt love now and you've experienced it and know like it's real. Like talking about, knowing what's real. Like now you know that that's real. And it's
Right.
different when you experience it. It's something to hear about it, but it's something completely different to actually have it and to hold it and be like, oh my God, someone is choosing me the way I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know too. I mean, you've lived it, but it's also taught me how to love because I didn't know how to be a partner. I had no idea how to be a partner and how to love at all. And I didn't feel capable of deserving love. And to know that finally, to work on myself for years and years and be alone. And I've never remarried. I never will remarry. I'm in a relationship, but I will never remarry. One of the things that I realize is that if I have learned the ability to show compassion and acceptance to someone, don't I also believe that there's another person somewhere in this world who's capable of those things? And the answer was, yeah, I'm not the only one that's learned how to show compassion and love to people. There are actually other people out there that have gone through what I have in a different way, and they've learned to be kind and compassionate and full of love. And I'm going to find one of those, and we're going to connect, and we're going to have a good time for as long as we do. It doesn't have to be eternity. As long as we're kind to each other and we're good to each other, we'll be together.
Yeah. There's more than one person for everyone. You don't have like
Yeah,
that one
agreed.
cookie cutter person that you have to live the rest of your life with. Like you mesh with people in different aspects and, they become your person too.
But only marry one at a time, though.
The whole guilt thing. So you admitted it because you felt guilty. I asked for permission to do it and was granted permission. And then was told permission.
Because you know what? Because he didn't think you'd take him up on it. I have a friend that happened to, and her husband blamed me because I had the connections. I was single, and he blamed me. I'm like, you got this is between you guys. He gave her the green light, and he's like, I didn't know you were gonna take it. And then he's like, it's my fault because I dated Chippendales, and she hooked up with the Chippendale, and it's like, that's on you, man. That's on you.
It's crazy, isn't it? Your relationship and you have that bond and you have that love and you're all of that. those things exist in people. Like you said, you're not the only person that's out there that has experienced these things or feels this way. You just have to find your person. That's
Yeah.
what it is. And then you get to take that journey and build with them and have someone choosing you and loving you the way that you deserve to, because we all deserve to be loved.
Yeah.
And Jen and I raise our children in the exact same way. You don't have to love everybody. You don't even have to like everybody, but you have to be kind.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in a church like that where you're just told you're second class and you're wrong and just you make babies?
When you're listening to it, it's there's so many pieces and components that are very similar to Catholicism,
Oh yeah.
because you're told, like, you do not use birth control, because if you're using birth control, then you're intentionally
Yep.
making it so that what your body is meant to do doesn't happen, so you're sinning. Or abortions are sins, or like all of these things are against what you're supposed to do. Like the whole premarital sex, that was against the
I
commandment.
feel like you should be able to have premarital sex.
Okay, so wait, this has to come out because I've actually had this conversation with men that are like so insistent that size is such a big deal, and the bigger you are, the better. I will tell you, as an actor that has had this experience of various penis sizes,
Yeah.
I have literally dated a guy for 6 months, and 6 months later, we went to sleep together, and that shit came out of his pants and was like, "Bow!" like an elephant's trunk, and I said, "You can put that back. That's not happening. I'm so sorry."
Okay, so you broke up with the guy because he had a big horn.
That was not going in anything that I had. That was a hole. That wasn't going anywhere near me. And then you have the guys that might be smaller, but like they know how to use it. Holy shit, I think I just had the best orgasm of my life. So size is not as big a deal to women as men think it is. And for the women that think it is such a big deal, you just haven't found the right dick yet.
Yeah, you're not using it right, or something, or he's not using it right. Someone's not using it.
But for regular to, regular guys, it's it's good to hear that. I guess.
Yeah, and condoms are different sizes for a reason. So are shoe sizes for women's breasts.
Well, even like women are different sizes. Like the girl inside, some people are like more hollow than others.
But chemistry's chemistry, no matter.
I have like different, like, their clits are in different spots in terms of like where aesthetically, like you're looking, like not like they're all in the same spot, but some of them are like more hidden
Out, don't they? Or like someone.
and some of them that it's just out there for the world, which I want to know. I wonder if those are the ones that get like the best orgasms, or if it's the hidden.
I feel like the hidden one, because you're not getting as much sensation all the time. Kind of like circumcised, uncircumcised. Like, so if it's not touching stuff as much, it's going to be a little more sensitive. But if it's touching it all the time, like,
Maybe that's why it's so hard to find it.
there you go.
Not the dick, not the dick. That's the.
I mean, it's hard to find. I don't know.
Maybe those micro guys, but no, it's not. I'm talking about the clitoris. Sometimes can be difficult to locate.
Oh my God.
Speaking of pussy, yeah, his cat has entered the chat.
He's
So maybe it's difficult to locate for some men because girls are different.
yeah.
So, because sometimes they find it and it's like, whoa, it's a sensitive area. What are you doing?
True. Yeah, you don't want to be a jackhammer because
Then it's like, okay, that doesn't feel good. That just hurts.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, are we done yet?
yeah. Yeah, no, I fake it all the time too. I always fake it.
No, thank you.
It's important to fake it strategically.
It's like, oh yeah, that's great. I got there. You're done.
I have to go to the bathroom.
I have to pee right now.
Then not come back.
I don't know if Susie's coming back. I think we might have lost her at the end there. Let's see.
So I'm like someone go down on me. And for a while. And then find out later that they had a headache. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just say I have a headache? And they're like, well, I didn't want to be that stereotypical person.
Tonight I have a headache. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I am human. I do get headaches. I know that they're real.
Yeah, but you don't want to hear that,
my head was pounding. Like, what the fuck were you doing?
Well, that's one thing you don't want to hear. You never want to hear. That's okay. It happens to a lot of guys. You don't want to hear that either. They'll like two phrases.
I don't think it's okay. And no, it does not happen to a lot of guys.
I mean, do we know that though? Because we develop penises and we get blue pills. Is there a blue pill for women?
And I think there is now. I remember seeing something about for women. I remember watching I think it was one of those commercials or something. I gotta look
I
at
thought I have that issue, but I wonder what it would feel like if you got some of that and you don't have that issue. Would it be better?
It's got to be, right? I've never taken a blue pill. Thankfully, I haven't needed to, but it must be it's got to be weird. Like you're just the whole day you're just running around, just ready to go. Right. That's what I think.
I think so. I think it lasts for a while.
So I think they're supposed to take it a half hour, an hour before. Did you know that they're
How do you time that?
hard?
What?
There are pills to keep you from getting hard.
Why would you want that? Unless you're at a funeral or something. Why would you want?
Friend that we would go on trips as groups, and one of the things that he would do is take this pill because he wouldn't want people to feel uncomfortable. Girls that out of this group, he didn't want to just randomly end up with a fucking erection at the pool.
What is he doing at the pool that he's getting erections?
Well, he just had a high libido.
I guess. Because I'm what are you doing, buddy?
Well, you don't want right.
I did. So we can look at something and be like, holy shit, and get turned on. A guy does it and other things happen. So yeah, they have pills to keep.
Yeah. Well, you don't want that if you're a school teacher or you're at church or, these things you stay away, or yeah.
Yeah, you sneeze and all of a sudden it's
Well, that's why kids, it was so hard. We're in high school. When you get everyone wore sweatpants and you get called up to the board. You're like, no, please don't call me. I can't go up right now. Please don't call me. I don't think that happens the way it does for teenagers as it does for men. I think it changes, but God, that was traumatic.
See, and that's
that a lot of hard school. Really?
Everybody did. Oh God, when you're a teenager, it's nonstop. You have boys.
This conversation. Oh,
I know that, but I just wasn't thinking they were getting hard-ons at school
all the time out of nowhere.
That.
The wind blows, that.
Hey, how was school today? Did you get a hard-on?
Well, you see what happens. If they're truthful, they'll tell you. Of course I did 5 times.
Yeah. And the simple as
I just never would have thought to ask any of my boys that, and I should have 4 of them.
Simple as shit. You're like, oh boy.
Dinner conversation. Happy birthday. Did you get hard-ons in school?
They say that a lot of the things sexually that you're more driven to or towards that turn you on when you get older are things that occurrences that occurred when you were in puberty. Or
makes me
seen someone was saying, oh, we actually interviewed someone and she was talking about how her brother might have seen
oh yes,
but spankings were turn on. So it's yeah.
Jane Epstein, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Survivor of incest.
Incest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, I can still picture my teachers sharpening pencils and how they would.
Oh, that was awesome.
How they would jiggle, and oh my God, that was whoa, what's going on here?
Sharpen those pencils, teacher.
Yeah, exactly. That was a highlight. There she goes. There she goes.
Do you have a sharpener at home now? Do you make Christine sharpen pencils?
Well, it's an automatic one, so no, you can't. The little one, it's gone. So damn.
Now we know what to get you.
Yeah, the sharper that's good because it means
sharpen that pencil, baby.
See, brings back memories. So ask you boys.
You know that Aubrey will not post a TikTok that she does with me.
Fine.
Because even if this wasn't like this, if I have a sweater on here, when we do TikToks, they're dances. So she goes, Mom, your boobs bounce around so much. All I will get responses on my feed. I can't post you on anything.
Well, that's the first thing I said today when you came on. I was like, oh, the girls are out. Let's probably put those away. Sorry, I get it.
Great today. I don't know. They landed perfect and everything.
Looking good.
They're cold down here, though. I got pants.
You can't. Look, that buyer. It was 25 degrees this morning. We're generous.
One here.
There we go.
Dude, I think we totally lost.
We did. And on that, let's talk about Susie's book. Her book is called A Piece of Me, Finding My Voice After Mormonism, Marriage, Medicine, and Men by Susie Bell. and with Sophia Lee, and it should be a good read. I'm sure you can find it everywhere. And she was gracious to join us and share her story, and I'm glad we had her on.
And her story is actually truly inspiring. So definitely recommend it for a good read, and especially for those that maybe feel that they find themselves in those same positions. Because like she said, we're all human and we all make mistakes. So don't be afraid to make them. It's all about how you come back from them.
Exactly.
So thank you, Susie, for being a part of Rule 42 today and our Wacky Wednesday. This is Audrey.
This is Jen. It was great talking to her. And
Peace out, Tommy.
Tommy's not saying nothing now.
I thought I was muted. Good job, guys.
Beeping at us like he's the Oz.
I'm directing.
Thank you. And that's Rule 42.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Rule 42 is hosted by Audrey Cruz and Jen Burke. It is produced and edited by Tom Smith. The opening song is Rule 42 by Eddie Carr. Rule 42's artwork was created by Aubrey Cruz. And I'm your announcer, Molly Smith. Thank you for listening to Rule 42. We hope you enjoyed the show. New episodes premiere every Thursday on all podcast platforms. Please subscribe, share the show, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple.